Hi, welcome to part three. We're going to jump over to Illustrator this time. The reason for that is we're going to just do a couple of image traces to create some vectors for our poster, and Illustrator is perfect for that type of situation. So we'll use Illustrator briefly here, and then we'll go back to Photoshop and keep working on our poster. If we go create a new document, I've already created a little 12 by 12 inch piece here, but just to review that, File, New. You can also use the hotkey Command N or Control N. I'm going to hit create. Okay. Where am I going to get images from? There's lots of places. Maybe you're going to sketch your own on an iPad or on a piece of paper and take a photo and then bring it in. That's one way. If you're going to use images off the internet, make sure that you're doing it ethically and sourcing your images from places that allow it. In this case, Pixabay is usually a pretty safe bet. It's a good, clean site. You sign in with your Google account, and then you have access to all kinds of art here that artists have posted. And they've basically either said, yeah, go ahead and use my art or my photo, and don't attribute if you don't want to, or some require attribution. Just make sure you read it over here under Pixabay license. And that'll tell you, in this case, this one's free for commercial use. That's great. I'm going to download it. Big quality, or as big as it offers. Going to open this. And real quick here, to get this image, what I did was I tried a couple of different searches. Silhouette ended up being the best. In this case, I did try using vector, and on Google, that's good. But on Pixabay, you're better just to try silhouette, and then whatever the subject is. In this case, I just wanted a man or a woman. I'm going to need both. I ended up getting an image here that's got a man and a woman in it, so that's great. It's not the exact one I used for the demo. Couldn't find it, but this one should be fine. The demo poster I showed at the beginning of the tutorial. This one is slightly different, but this will work fine. Okay, so I've downloaded that. I'm going to go back over to my downloads. Here they are. I can now drag this into Illustrator, and I'm going to zoom out with Control minus, Command minus on the Mac. And I'm going to just shrink this down a little bit, holding Shift. It's a little bit bigger than I need it to be. Okay, shrink it down a little bit more, and then Control plus to zoom in. Zoom out maybe one step. There we go. That's perfect. Okay, over here, and again, just a reminder for Illustrator, you're going to do most of your work with the properties panel open. Yes, you want to have your layers to reference them, but properties is where almost all of the answers are. Like, where's the fill? Where's the stroke? Where's the font type? In this case, what are my options with images that I bring into Illustrator? In this case, there's several, but the one we care about is this one here. Okay, so image trace is what we want to do. So we're going to click image trace. It's going to ask me what type. Usually default is good for a black and white image trace. I'm going to hit default. It's going to get busy working on that. And then we'll see what type of results we got from that trace. And it's pretty good, actually. But if I wanted to tinker with it a bit, I would click on this little guy right here, the image trace panel. And with the image trace panel, we can just use this slider here, this threshold slider, to just refine the trace a little bit more. And if I slide it to the left, it's going to show a little bit less black and a little bit more white, which might bring out more detail. If I go to the other side, it's going to trace it more heavily. You can see how it got too bulky there. So I actually feel like sliding it towards the left is the way to go. Now her hair got a little bit oversimplified, but I could always draw those in later. I could do that with a brush in Photoshop, or I could just look for a different vector for her hair. That's possible, but for now, I'm pretty happy with this. So if I'm happy with the trace, I can then go back to properties here, and you've got your big expand button waiting for you. It's nice that Illustrator now, the way it's set up, is it sort of leads you through typical steps that most artists would be taking. So most people after image tracing will want to expand, and there's the suggestion, expand. Okay, the last thing I want to do is ungroup, right? So the three words to remember when doing image traces are image trace, expand, and then ungroup. Okay, now that I've ungrouped it, I'm able to click in these spaces between the positive space, like the negative white space. And if I hit delete, I can see that it's gone, although you can't really see it, can you? Which is sort of why it's a good idea to just make sure before you finish this vector, drag it off the artboard into the gray area, and then you can really see like which parts you still need to delete. Um, Sometimes it gets really, really small and detailed. In this case, I have to zoom in a bit and delete that. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. There we go. Finish the hands. Okay. Some of you watching this probably thinking, isn't there an easier way than just clicking through all these little pieces? And yes, there is. You would be right. I just wanted to demonstrate, though, how each one of those items are now clickable and deletable. And I'm going to go back a step here and show you how you can save yourself. I like that little detail on the shoelace, actually. I'm going to show you how you can save yourself a bunch of time in this step. Okay, so if I go back, if I just Control Z back to when it had just been traced, and this time I'm going to actually take it off the white artboard and do all of my selection here. So, okay, so here's how we're going to speed up our workflow quickly. We're going to click on the white, which is, oh, it's still grouped. I missed the final step, ungroup. There we go. Click again. There we go. All right, so in this case, we know that the two fill colors are black and white. There's no other colors. So if I go up to select, same, and then choose fill color, I'm just telling Illustrator, select anything that's the same fill color. So in this case, it selects all the white. Now if I hit delete, it's gone, right? So that's obviously the way to go, a lot quicker. Okay, now I can grab these two, slide them over to the artboard. I can group them now because it's okay to have them as a group. You can do that by right-clicking and selecting or not, object, group. There we go. I don't know why I couldn't right-click it. The other way to group something is if it's selected, you have a bunch of things that are separate and you want to group them, just hit Command-G on the Mac or Control-G on your PC. Okay, they're now grouped. Cool. So just a good practice here to get into is just anytime we create a vector, we want to save these and you should just have a folder on your computer where you're saving any of the vectors you've made, any image tracing you've done. So I'm going to go save as, and I'm going to just create Francis art here. I think I have a new Francis art thing going, 2020. There we go. Yeah, we'll just call this one two people vector. Hit save. It automatically saves as an Illustrator file. That's great. And it's going to ask me for all the default settings are fine. So, okay, again. All right, even though we save that, we actually from here can just copy this, like Command-C, Control-C, and go back to Photoshop now and paste it in, okay? Command-V or Control-V. A dialog box is going to pop up and ask you how you want to paste it. Now, I recommend a smart object, and that's the first option. So let's take them up on that suggestion. And hit OK, give it a second, and there's our vector. Okay, so now we've got a vector in Photoshop that we created in Illustrator. I can stretch it out holding Shift. I can hit Enter when I'm kind of done moving it around. And don't worry, just like any layer in Photoshop, we can always change this later, and we will. That's coming in part 4. Thanks for watching part 3, and we're going to continue on with our poster shortly.